Guys, today we're going to be talking about the Corsair K95 RGB Platinum XT mechanical keyboard. Say that 5 times quickly. We're going to be going over the pros and the cons of this keyboard, and do I actually think it's worth the expensive $250 price tag? If you guys do learn something new from this video, please subscribe to the channel. Also leave a like on the video. Guys, if you want me to review any other gaming products, make sure you leave a comment in the video letting me know what it is you would like for me to review on the channel. I took this keyboard for a spin for about a month trying to get an actual feel for this. I've been a mouse and keyboard gamer for decades, and I've gone through my fair share of keyboards. Also, I've reviewed a bunch of keyboards on this channel, and I've got to say, with the aluminum and the hard plastic that they use to build this keyboard, this is one of the most durable keyboards I've had the pleasure of using. Now, throughout this video, we'll be going over the pros, we'll be going over the cons, and at the end of the video, I'll go over my final thoughts as well as my personal preferences. Now, when I first took the keyboard out of the box, I was a little confused because this keyboard had 2 USB ports attached to the end of the cable, which threw me off. I didn't know if you could plug it into 2 PCs at the same time, something like I do for streaming and content creating, or if one was specifically to power the RGB. But come to find out, one cable, of course, is for the entire keyboard, and the other one is a USB pass-through. With that being said, the ergonomics of this keyboard is really nice. Most keyboards, I usually don't use the feet. I lay it flat on the desk because a lot of times companies will make these massive feet, create this huge angle, and it just puts a lot of strain on your wrist. This keyboard here with the feet down or up just feels absolutely amazing. It's definitely not my favorite, but it is a top 3 as far as the ergonomics and the feel of the keyboard. Now, when it comes to the RGB and software, and I'll kind of throw this together, the RGB is extremely bright. This is probably the brightest and best looking RGB I've ever seen on a keyboard, even over my favorite one. Also, the customability with the IQ program is even more outstanding. There's so many different patterns you can do. There's so many different color combinations that it's just endless. I really wish I could make a video just on the software and all that you can do with it, but unfortunately that would just take up about 45 minutes of me playing with different patterns. Honestly, when it comes to RGB software, it's just over the top. Again, I've used probably a dozen RGB keyboards, and this is by far the best software of any of them. Very easy to use, very simple. I'm gonna compare it real quick to Razer software. Razer's was really just over the top, overly complicated. This was a lot more simplistic. You can load up the program for the first time, jump in, and instantly be hitting these things and figure it out relatively quick. It took me about 30 minutes to figure out Razer's, and I'm pretty sure I still don't understand what the hell's going on. But when it comes to Corsair software, this was, again, the best. So if you're an RGB enthusiast, this will definitely be the keyboard for you. If you are an RGB enthusiast, I highly recommend this keyboard for you. This will definitely light up like a beacon on your desk. These are cherry linear switches. A lot of people are massive fans of them. Personally, I'm not a big fan of them, but they are pretty responsive. There's not really much positive I can say about the switches, more or less so because of personal preference, but that leads me to our first con. Now, for my first con, we discussed the ergonomics and how much I enjoyed it. However, I did say it was not my top. And the reason for this is because of the taller keycaps. If you guys notice the keyboard I currently use, it's a lot shorter throw, it's a lot shorter keys, so it didn't put that much strain on my wrist, but having to elevate your hand just a little bit more for the taller keycaps on the Corsair, even though the ergonomics is pretty good, still put a little bit more stress on my fingers than I like. And I also found myself fat fingering a bunch of buttons, which leads me to con number 2. These buttons are very, very mushy, which is not a feeling I like. A lot of people love the feeling. To be honest, I like to be able to know if I'm hitting the buttons. I don't want to just be resting my fingers on the key and accidentally be pressing down on it. Seems like that won't happen, but trust me, as I've used different keyboards, I find certain ones like this one, I fat finger pretty often. Now, despite the mushiness of the keys, you would think it'd be a little bit quieter, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Leading to con number 3, this keyboard is extremely loud. I don't know what it is about Corsair keyboards. I think they're just more of like, you're a gamer, be a gamer. Who cares about noise? But there's a lot of instances where we don't want noisy keyboards. If you're younger and you're staying up past bedtime and your parents are in the room next to you, they're going to hear this keyboard. If you're gaming and your significant other is sleeping in the room next to you or in the same room as you, they're going to hear this. If you're a streamer, YouTuber, whatever the case is, your audience is going to hear this. This is probably the loudest keyboard I've ever used, and it was a massive turnoff for me. Con number 4 is pretty simple, and it's just a personal preference. It's going to be the fact that it's not wireless. I'm really shocked that there are $250 keyboards out there that are not wireless. It's mind-blowing they don't make an option, like I said, and I always compare these keyboards to the Logitech G915 because in my opinion, it's the best one. But the Logitech, you could be wireless and you can be cabled. whatever you want to do. So I've got to go ahead and dock the Corsair K95. A lot of points for that. There's just no excuse for not being wireless. While gaming with this keyboard, I found myself, misclicking a lot of buttons, fat fingering a lot of buttons, and honestly, I didn't like the way the keys felt. The keyboard itself at the base felt real sturdy, felt real good. That aluminum, that hard plastic was just a great combination, but the keys were a little cheap feeling, and I don't know if that's a polite word to use, but that's exactly how I took it. If you rest your finger on a keycap, you want it to be somewhat firm. You don't want to just be able to roll your finger and have the whole thing adjust, and that's exactly what the Corsair keyboard did. The problem with this is if you're resting your hands on the keyboard while gaming and your finger starts to roll the key, you don't know if you're hitting the button or if it's just loose. It's a really weird feeling. I like to be firm. I like to know I'm hitting the button and feel the pushback when I lift up as well. This keyboard really didn't give me that feeling. So overall, my gaming experience with it wasn't as top tier as the price tag on this keyboard, which comes in at a whopping $200 to $250, depending if you can get it on sale or not. And nothing against Corsair. I really like a lot of their products, but just constructive criticism. When it comes to keyboards like this, I really wish the price matched the competitors. There are a lot of keyboards out there that offer a lot better quality, that offer a different and better options that are at the same or even a lower price tier. This is a very good keyboard. This doesn't quite make the top 5 in my eyes, so I don't believe the price point should be a top 5. Overall, I gotta go ahead and give this keyboard a 9 out of 10 as far as just being a great gaming keyboard. But I'm gonna go ahead and dock it 2 points for all the cons that I listed. One, the price point I believe is just way too high. This is about a $150 keyboard at absolute best. The fact that it's not wireless, the fact that the keys feel loose and junky, just not a huge fan of it at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and give the Corsair K95 XT Platinum RGB mechanical keyboard a 7 out of 10. And again, that's nothing against Corsair. I love Corsair products, but this thing needs to be worked on a little bit.